show you guys something else. Okay, so I've been asked a lot about the different. Ready?
Yeah.
I've been asked a lot about different types of cannabis and how it grows and what to look for. And people are, some are very knowledgeable, some are very uninformed. And so let's talk about that a little bit. There's more than one kind of cannabis. Some of us know there's cannabis sativa, cannabis indica. Well then, there's cannabis hemp, cannabis ruderalis, cannabis afghanica, and the final one that I know is cannabis lucis monstra. Okay, now all of these come from different parts of the world. The final one, cannabis lucis monstra, was kind of a man-made creation that's commonly on the streets is known as freak show. Its leaves have 5 fingers, but no 2 leaves are alike. It's like a snowflake. Every leaf on that plant is different. Now, that's totally unique because most cannabis will end up, when it gets to a mature age, it will have the same amount of fingers all throughout the plant. And then all of those little ribs will be the same number of ribs too on a fully mature cannabis plant. But the freak show is kind of a cross. What the guy did was he took mutated strains of cannabis for over 40 years and crossed up mutated strains with other mutations. And he got so far away from the original cannabis that now it is indeed its own. And it's really high in CBD, so a lot of people have a favoring for it. It's a very medicinal plant. I grew it out and didn't find it to be all that pleasurable because it's not as stony as what I enjoy. It's also not that gassy, the flavor that I particularly like. So it just, for me, it wasn't my cup of tea. But it was a very good plant. As far as medicinal value, it's highly desirable. I recommend it for anyone who would want it for any ailment. Okay, now, the others that are really common, we get a cross. Let's separate this because the cannabis afghanica and cannabis sativa and cannabis indica, people don't realize some of the differences they do between the indica and sativas, okay, because sativas, they know it to be more of an energetic buzz, and the indicas are more sedative, and you're going to get more hunger with the indicas. But the way that they look, the indica is going to have a wider leaf on the blades, and the sativa is going to have a longer, thin blade. Now here's where we get confused with the cannabis afghanica, because it looks like a sativa. It's got a long, thin blade, but it gets you stoned like an indica. So this is where the two people call it two different things, because the grower looks at it with the long leaf and he calls it a sativa. We now know a lot of people are calling it a kush, which is truly it's a cannabis afghanica, but the OG, the kush, the landrace, these are all cannabis afghanica strains. And that plant grows with a longer leaf and tall and lanky, usually has thin branches, and it grows really well in dry, arid environments and a slightly elevation, okay? And it hits you like a indica, like I already said, but it doesn't fill in. The big difference when you see it at the end, the sativas and the indica both fill in with big colas, with big, just flower all the way up to the end of the branch. But the cannabis afghanica fills in with little branches with bud on the end. Blink, blink, blink. We call that more of a popcorn bud. But they are so delicious. You know, I love that plant.
Is that good for Riverside County, I would think?
Yeah, it's a very big popular one for the people to grow in our local hills, because it does well with dry conditions and heat and a little bit of elevation, which coincidentally, the landscape of Afghanistan looks a lot like sage and our mountains around us. A lot of rocks about, the size of a heavy boulder to the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, and many just stacked upon each other. That's our hills out here. And in between, when you look at the ground, it's all little tiny rocks and pieces of sand. We don't have much organic matter. It blows off and lands many, many miles away.
Yep.
Okay, so now what I want to do is show you guys a little bit. We're going to talk about where that all comes from here. I think I can draw this upside down, so I'm going to give it a shot here. Alright. So, we've got the Earth. And then in the middle of the Earth, we got the equator. Now, in this zone right here, the equatorial zone, we call it the tropics. Tropical zone is all right in here. And this is where your sativas grow. Let's see, S upside down is the same as S upside down, right? Is that S? Is that backwards? Okay. Okay, so that's your sativas down here, right in the middle. Now, sativas grow in the world of 12 hours. Because here, when the Earth is spinning every day, we get day and night. When the Earth tilts, we get summer and winter. Okay, but this place here is always like in the middle, so it's like always summery and hot right there. And so you ask, how, if it's 12 hours, how does this plant know when to bloom? Well, in nature, the plant knows when the sun is coming up over here, and then the sun's coming up over here, and then the sun starts to go that way. It says, wow, I'm done. It's time to be done. So the plant at the equator takes a whole year to grow, basically. By the time the sun comes around from whatever time it was planted, it has to go back to going where it was. Okay, now that's your sativas. Now, this area here and up to here, from this line here, like that, these are going to be down into here a little bit, and up into here a little bit. This is all going to be your indica land. Okay? Now, just away from there, now we've got the differential between night and day. So in this area, this would be like where we are up in here. We get our longest day of the year is going to be 14 and a half hours of daylight. Now that's enough to say to a plant to grow. Then when the days get shorter, the plant starts to flower. That happens in this whole land, and the indicas do well here. Okay? Now, up here near the poles, and down there near the other poles, where it gets 24 hours light, that is going to be the land of what's called the ruderalis. Now, that's commonly called the autoflower, because that plant will grow under 24 hours of light. That plant has to finish off while it's got a short season. So it grows quickly, and flowers also while it's growing, it's flowering. Well, all these others are going to wait until the end of flower, not the ruderalis. Okay? Now, the ruderalis has a benefit. It's also got a drawback. A lot of people like it because you can grow it really fast. So indoor growers like it. It flowers right away. You can put the lights on whatever, and you don't have to mess around with it that much. However, it's not one of the stoniest plants. So we've crossed it with other plants to try and create its, or increase its THC levels. Alright, now, in the land where we've got indicas and sativas, we've also got two other things, and we've got hemp. Hemp comes from low-lying in altitude and more of a humid, warm area. Okay?
Texas.
Missouri. Yes. Missouri, that belt down all the way down into Georgia, Missouri, Arkansas. They grow hemp like crazy. Wild It grows wild there. Okay, now on the opposite side, we've got the cannabis afghanica, where it grows in these same regions, but in a higher, drier climate. Okay? So, that kind of explains where things are and the world, where they came from. Alright?